oversight, and strategic direction to the service. We work closely with the chief and his leadership team to ensure policing in Niagara is effective, accountable, and community-focused. This evening's presentation will provide an overview of policing programs across Niagara, calls for service, emerging issues, speed and traffic enforcement in Grimsby, and our ongoing efforts in crime prevention and community engagement. The collaboration between the service, the board, and local councils is essential in making sure our policing priorities align with the expectations and concerns of the communities we serve. So this evening, I'll turn this over to the chief, who will provide an update on the Niagara Regional Police Service and policing activities specific to Niagara. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Your Worship, members of council. Thank you very much for inviting us to join you here this evening. For the purpose of the presentation, Staff Sergeant Dylan Bourgeois, who serves as your detachment commander, will walk you through some of the pressures facing Grimsby in particular. And I'm joined by Deputy Chief Lagrataria, Superintendent Perron, many members that serve your community here as well. As Staff Sergeant Bourgeois delivers his presentation, we invite any questions that you might have. Depending on the scope and nature of the question, either the Staff Sergeant will answer them, or he might look to Deputy Chief Lagrataria, or depending on the scale or scope, they may also lean to me to come up and provide my insight. So, as I said, we welcome all questions that you might have, or that you think that people that you serve in your community would like you to ask on their behalf. So, again, I'll be concise, and I'll turn the stage over to the Staff Sergeant, if that's okay with you, Your Worship. Thank you. You get started, the chair.
Next slide. Thank you, Chief, and again, thank you, Mayor and members of Council, for having us here today and for giving us this opportunity to speak. Simply put, the following is the mission statement of the Niagara Regional Police Service. Niagara Regional Police Service is dedicated to serving and protecting residents and visitors within the regional municipality of Niagara. In partnership with the community, we shall provide quality policing services with integrity, diligence, and sensitivity. Next two slides are a quick overview of our current organizational structure. Much like many large organizations, it shows the scope of services and areas of expertise within the Niagara Regional Police Service. From a uniform perspective, we have over 770 sworn members, which form part of our authorized strength, in addition to over 320 civilian members. Breaking down our organizational chart further, I wanted to give you a snapshot of the various police programs that we have here in Niagara, from the Chief's Office, Emergency Services, Operational Services, and Community Services. On the top right of this slide, we see Investigative Services, which are resources above and beyond the number of specifically assigned patrol officers. Members assigned to these units are able to assist with more complex needs and investigations, such as our Special Victims Unit, which would include domestic violence, the Sex Assault Unit, Child Abuse Unit, and Human Trafficking Unit, as well as our Emergency Services, which encompasses canine, tactical officers, and traffic enforcement officers, to name a few. Generally speaking, most members of the public only see the frontline uniform members driving within the community and answering calls for service. But at any time, these specialty units can be deployed to assist where appropriate for a tailored response, which I will speak to shortly as I walk you through the anatomy of a call for service. Next slide. Furthermore, we have operational support and projects, executive services, human resources, technology services, and finance and asset management. Next slide. Thank you. I'd like to draw your attention to this slide detailing our yearly calls for service, which, as you can see, are projected to continue to increase on a go-forward basis. You'll notice that the graph before you shows a marked increase over the next 5 years. The emergence and growing sophistication of crime is a pressure that was factored into our recent budget discussions and decisions, in addition to increases in specific calls for service, as noted in the trends in domestic violence calls, which you can see in the graph on the left-hand side. In 2017, we had just under 5,100 domestic violence calls. By 2024, that number had increased to 6,800, a substantial rise of more than 30%, my apologies. Each of these calls requires a careful, resource-intensive response to ensure the safety of victims and accountability of offenders. On the right, you will see trends in homicide. While Niagara has historically experienced relatively few homicides each year, we've seen a dramatic increase in recent years. In 2020, there were 4 homicides. That number rose to 12 in 2023 and 15 last year, which was our highest in the region's history. These examples illustrate how the complexity and volume of serious crime continues to grow, placing increasing pressures on our investigators and frontline members. Further, when we look at emerging crime and sophistication, we see similar upward trends in other serious offenses. On the left, child abuse-related calls for service has risen from 327 in 2020 to 460 in 2024, a 40% increase over just 4 years. Each of these cases also requires specialized investigative resources, in addition to strong community partnerships and careful coordination to ensure the protection of vulnerable children. On the right, sex assault-related calls for service have also grown significantly. From a low of 390 in 2020, calls rose to over 600 in 2022. While there was a slight decline in 2023 and 2024, we remain at levels far higher than just a few years ago. It should go without saying that these are complex cases, time-intensive, and deeply impactful on the victims. Taken together with the previous slide, the message is clear that the nature of crime in our region is becoming more complex, more sophisticated, and more demanding on our members. Specifically looking at the town of Grimsby, here you'll see a heat map illustrating the top 5 types of calls for service within the town of Grimsby. This visualization highlights the areas where our officers are most frequently responding, helping us better understand community needs and allocate resources effectively. Our most common call types include assisting the ambulance, supporting paramedic teams during medical emergencies or high-risk situations, driving complaints, responding to concerns about unsafe driving, speeding, or potential impaired drivers, belated frauds, investigating fraud incidents that are reported after the fact, often involving online scams or financial deception, thefts, addressing stolen property ranging from minor items to larger, more impactful losses, and welfare checks, ensuring the safety of individuals when there is concern about their well-being. Overall, these categories give us important insight into the types of issues most affecting residents of Grimsby and where our services are most needed. When we talk about a single call for service, it's important to understand the scale of resources which is activated. It begins with a call to our 911 communications center. From the first point of contact, multiple layers of personnel and expertise may be mobilized depending upon the nature of the incident. The call is dispatched to our frontline officers, supported immediately by a sergeant who will provide oversight and direction. From there, the response can quickly expand. A duty inspector may become involved to coordinate more complex or high-risk situations. The inspector may request support from specialized units such as the Criminal Investigative Branch, Emergency Task Unit, the Tactical Support Group, or the K-9 Unit. If the situation escalates, an incident commander may be assigned, supported by scribes and negotiators, ensuring that command, control, and containment are carried out effectively and safely. Throughout all of this, our corporate communications unit is engaged to ensure accurate and timely information is shared with the community, whether that's through media outlets, social media platforms, or community alerts. And once an arrest is made or charges are laid, the work continues. Central Holding, Court Services, CPIC, and Records Management all contribute to completing the process, ensuring the justice system moves efficiently. A single call for service often involves far more officers than what you see on the road. It draws on an entire network of specialized units, command oversight, administrative support, and critical infrastructure. Every call has a ripple effect, touching numerous people, units, and resources from across the service. This council is likely aware of several recent high-end calls that have engaged these resources across the service. Recently, there were 2 unrelated, targeted shootings within the town of Grimsby, where we were able to identify those responsible through the course of an investigation. I will share with you a very brief high-level overview of one of these incidents, respecting that the matter remains before the courts at this time. On September 24th, 2025, just before 8 o'clock in the evening, Niagara Regional Police Service received a report of a single victim with gunshot wounds in the area of South Service Road and Kelson Avenue North. Immediately, all on-duty patrol officers assigned to 8 District responded, in addition to a parallel response from OPP Niagara and Niagara EMS, and given the proximity of that location to Hamilton, Hamilton EMS and Hamilton Police Service, specifically their K-9 unit, also responded. Our 8 District Detective Office, consisting of 7 detective constables, led by a detective sergeant, was immediately engaged. An extensive high-risk K-9 track in the dark for the shooter was undertaken, which lasted over 30 minutes. This investigation was led by the Grimsby Detective Office with the assistance of the Welland Detective Office, the Niagara Regional Police Services Forensic Services Unit, Emergency Task Unit, K-9, Special Investigative Services, commonly referred to as the Intelligence Unit. I'm probably forgetting some of the units that assisted, so please forgive me. In the days and weeks that followed, members of our detective office worked extensive hours, in some cases working 21 hours straight, before having a few hours of time off and returning for 15-plus hour shifts. This investigation to date has included no less than 9 judicial authorizations, including production orders and search warrants, executed both inside of Niagara and outside. Hundreds of hours of security footage have been seized and continue to be reviewed from both inside and outside of Niagara. To date, 6 persons have been identified, arrested, and charged in relation to this investigation, with last count being 117 criminal charges, which are now before the courts. I'm confident that the number of hours dedicated to this investigation will continue to grow as our investigators begin further examining the vast amount of evidence with the assistance of our forensic examiners with our technological crime unit. In addition, I suspect the number of judicial authorizations and charges will likely continue to grow. This has been a major investigation by our detective office and the service. And were it not for the teamwork between our members in 8 District, including uniform and the detective office, with the assistance of those units previously mentioned, I could not be before you here today recognizing their efforts. And I'd like to point out they're actually in the gallery this evening. So, looking at our ongoing efforts to improve road safety in the town of Grimsby, in 2024, we issued 216 provincial offense notices related to speeding, along with 34 warnings. Additionally, speed enforcement projects are held regularly with proactive patrols focusing on rural areas. And recently, our district has undertaken an initiative focusing on traffic enforcement in local school zones. We have a collaborative partnership with Niagara Region Vision Zero, which aims to make roads safer and eliminate injuries and fatalities across the Niagara region. Additionally, there are 3 community safety zones identified by the region of Niagara within the town of Grimsby, which are noted on the slide before you. I encourage anyone with specific traffic concerns to utilize our traffic hotline, which allows the traffic enforcement unit to conduct proactive patrols in areas of concern by calling the number on the slide or using the email provided. There's an online form on our public website as well. These reporting methods are routinely shared on our social media platforms for public awareness as well. Next slide. This slide highlights our See Something, Say Something initiative, which is a core component of the Niagara Regional Police Service Stop Hate Niagara campaign. This campaign has played a key role in reducing barriers for individuals who may be hesitant or unsure about reporting hate incidents or hate crimes. It also helps residents understand what constitutes a hate crime versus a hate-motivated incident, empowering them to recognize and report concerning behavior. The pamphlets shown here on the slide are available in multiple languages and are distributed widely throughout the community, including at places of worship, cultural centers, and local organizations, ensuring that accurate information is accessible to everyone in Niagara. The goal is simple. If you see something, say something. By increasing awareness, reducing stigma, and removing language barriers, we're helping to ensure hate-related behavior does not go unreported. I would also like to stress that the concept of seeing something and saying something goes beyond hate crimes, and I would encourage anyone in the town of Grimsby and Niagara as a whole to report any crime for which they witness or have information of. Officers assigned to 8 District take part in several crime prevention and community engagement initiatives throughout the year. You'll often see our frontline officers walking the beat on foot patrol in the downtown core, engaging with business owners and residents. Recently, we undertook another community initiative where officers were walking through parks at night. Officers regularly take part in our Lock It or Lose It campaign all year long, as well as we are actively involved with the Ministry of Transportation in conducting heavy truck enforcement to ensure compliance of commercial vehicles and the safety of our roadways. And I note that Henry's here this evening. Henry, myself, and the other bylaw officers from across West Niagara, we meet every other month and share information that of community concerns that probably go between the various townships and how we can all work together to collaboratively address them. So, I'd like to thank Grimsby Town Council for your time this evening, and myself, hopefully with the assistance of Deputy Chief Lagrateri and Chief Forty, will be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much for your presentation. Questions from council? Councillor Davoli.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. A question to our delegation today. And I see the charts and the graphs with upward trends. And it reminds me of a similar situation that happens in healthcare where, you know, we start to see upward trends. And unfortunately, it begs the question of why is this happening? And that is my question for you tonight. Why do you think we are seeing these upward trends? That's the first question. And 2, do you see or have any suggestions for us as a council as to what we could do as a community?
I'll answer the second question first. As noted in the one side, I think the biggest thing within the community is if people are the victim of a crime, we need to know about it. We do see on social media a lot people reporting crimes. Facebook is not the reporting mechanism for reporting a crime. You need to let us know. In terms of the upward trend, I don't know why it is happening, but you know, we just have to look around us. The region as a whole is growing, and as the population continues to increase, calls for service will go up.
Councillor Howe.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. On page 13, and we're right here at the community engagement area.
Yes.
What can we as a community expect? I mean, that's a pretty broad term to use it. I think of the auxiliary officers, and the chief and I had the chance to talk about it one time. You know, can we expect to maybe see them out at some of our events and down the road? I think of, and this will get a kick out of some people, Elmer the safety elephant. Elmer probably predates you.
I remember him when I was
Okay.
in school.
But, and basically, in other words, the kids and the bicycle safety program, I know it takes the officers out of the cars, but at one point in time, it was a very successful program. But whether or not we'll ever be able to see it again, I don't know. But those are a couple of the things that I think of, off the presentation. How are we going to see it as the community?
So auxiliary officers, I might get the name wrong, but you had Community Safety Day for West Niagara. We engaged the auxiliary officers that day. They came up and joined us. I think it's important to understand, too, that auxiliary officers are volunteers, and they're not allowed to work alone. So they have to be with us. So bringing them in alone is not an option. You have your forthcoming Santa Claus parade coming up. We've engaged the auxiliary unit for that as well. And you had the International Plowing Match this summer, and we extensively used auxiliary officers in respect to that, in complement to the number of officers that we had at that event.
So we, going forward, if there's that chance, and you guys are under a lot of heat, I know, but to see that name, the police, and see it on the street and on the, with the boots on the ground sort of an idea, it goes a long ways. I know that, yeah, but that's enough on that. I do have some other questions, but they're not specifically relevant to this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Korstanji.
Thanks. Thank you, through Chair. So we've actually spoken quite a bit over the last little while, so I'm just going to thank you for your responsiveness. You're always right there, phoning me back and answering my questions, so I really appreciate that. So just some positive feedback for you. I'm just going to comment on a couple things. One of the things I'd like to see, sort of like Councillor Howe was saying, is a lot of the engagement I see, I went to the body camera symposium, and you have the human trafficking symposium tomorrow night. A lot of that is always, I get it, but Niagara Falls area, and I'd like to see more of a presence of that in Niagara West, because I don't think a lot of people in this area go to those events, so I would personally like to see a little more of that type of stuff out in our area, so Niagara West can sort of get the benefits of that as well. If we can take some of our key issues in this area, and if it is theft and fraud, and concentrate on those areas as well, I think that would be beneficial to our area. I really like that you're starting to patrol parks. I think that's fantastic, and that is definitely one of the things that residents have asked for, so thank you for that. And just the presence, again, agreeing with Councillor Howe, the presence of you in our community and the scene presence, I think, goes a long way. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I do know our body-worn camera consultations. We were in West Niagara twice for that, but I'll bring your concerns back in regards to the other items that we put on.
Yeah, thank you. And not just that specifically, but there's been a few things that I've seen that are like, oh, I really want to go to that. And I think the community would get engaged, but it's always like, oh, Niagara Falls or whatever. And by the time, depending on where you work or what you're doing, it's hard to get all the way out there and back. So we don't always have the opportunity to go, but.
Thank you.
Councillor Sharwell.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. First, I wanted to thank you for the presentation that was online with the Niagara region. I did watch that. I think I tapped out at about the third hour, but it was very thorough, and I would say it was eye-opening as far as how many officers, how much staff is involved in one call. So it was good to understand how that works and kind of defends the numbers and your budget increases. So I do understand that. And I apologize for not sending these questions earlier. So just do your best answering as best you can. Three questions. The first would be if you could just give us an idea of how many officers are actually in Grimsby, and like percentage-wise, what do you think the percentage of their job is in Grimsby as opposed to getting called outside of Grimsby, if that makes sense? Like, do they stay here, or are they predominantly dispatched to other municipalities?
So we have an authorized strength of 9 officers per shift. We have 4 platoons, so that would be 36 officers. In addition, as I noted in the presentation, we have 7 detective constables and a detective sergeant, and we have a front desk clerk as well. The percentage of, we patrol West Niagara. Seldom, unless of an extreme emergency, would we ever be pulled out of West Niagara. But similar to, and I didn't highlight it in the presentation, but we have had incidents in West Niagara where they are emergencies. We've pulled from Welland, which we would refer to as 3 district, or Port Colborne, which we would refer to as 6 district. So I would say less than 1% of the time would our officers that are assigned to West Niagara find themselves outside of West Niagara. And if that was the case, it would be a public emergency.
That's great, thank you, because I've had people ask that, so that's good. So in here, you were talking about, there are some statistics here, and they seem to be Niagara-related for calls. What would you say that it's proportionate to the increase in Grimsby, or is there a reason you didn't use Grimsby-specific numbers to show the increase, or?
So we're looking at Niagara region as a whole when it relates to our budget. When it looks at Grimsby specifically, just the other day I went back 5 years. We typically, and not Grimsby, I'm referring to West Niagara. We respond to typically between 10,200 and 10,700 calls per year out of our detachment here. We are on pace this year to hit 10,900.
Thank you. Last question regarding speed enforcement. So as you know, the speed cameras are going. Community safety is a key concern for our council. And I'm just wondering how, because I had noticed, on here you were talking about provincial offenses for speed infractions. So I'm wondering whether we're still, and it was 2024. So speed cameras in Grimsby came mid-January 2025. So how are we going to make sure that we're still enforcing those community safety zones with the speed cameras gone? And that's my last question.
So even with the speed cameras, we still, so this year, I realized the slideshow showed that, we still have been enforcing the Highway Traffic Act with them, and specifically relating to speeding. I think I said 214 or 216 speeding notices in 2024. We've already surpassed that this year, and that's just I don't have the data from the speed enforcement cameras. Those are run by the region, but our members out of 8 district have actually written more speed tickets this year than last year, and that would be while the cameras were active, because I think they ended this week, correct? I think. Yeah,
That's it.
I think
Thank
so,
you.
Yes.
Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, through you. First off, I'd just like to commend all your efforts in the few more serious events we've had in Grimsby as of late. I have the utmost respect for it. I was kind of also wanted to share what I've heard from a few constituents and also kind of had to deal with personally as well. Definitely relates to the rise in theft and violent crime. I've had a stolen truck this year, as well as a second attempt that wasn't successful. But you mentioned as well with the joint services and the success with some of the Hamilton forces. So I just wanted to, on the specifically auto theft front, for my situation, it was stolen here in Niagara, recovered in Hamilton, which presented a few unique challenges. So I guess my question is twofold. One, is there more we can do on the collaborative front with, say, Hamilton Police? And two, are there concerns for resources with Niagara for the projected year-over-year increase? And then lastly, I'll just say, from dealing with my personal scenario, I thanked and kissed the ground when I got back to Niagara. So thank you.
I think I'm going to refer to the chief, given that you're asking a question about a joint forces operation. So thank you.
Thanks, Dylan, and I would echo the comments of the councillors through you, Chair. I think, Staff Sergeant did an excellent job of presenting on some of the pressures. If I could, before I jump right to your question, I was trying to write them down as I was going with respect to partnerships and pressures this year. I'd like to come back and top up a couple answers that Dylan made to some of the questions from some councillors through you, Your Worship, if I could. And I'll go back to the initial question on why do we think we're seeing these changes, increases in violent crime, increases in kind of transnational organized crime. And my response to that is I think we find ourselves in a really interesting time where we have the intersection of mental health, we have addiction, we have guns coming into Canada from the United States, we have crime moving from the GTA into our community, and we're seeing all those things coming into play at the same time. And I think in part that's why we're seeing some of the increases that we're experiencing. In terms of our community engagement and mobilization, through the board's direction, that is something that we are trying to prioritize. In terms of auxiliaries in particular, we have been recruiting. One of the challenges that we face, as referenced by the staff sergeant, is that we cannot send auxiliaries out by themselves. Under the Ontario Occupational Health and Safety Act, we need to provide oversight for them to ensure they're safe. If we were a federal agency, be the Canada Labour Code, we need to provide lethal overwatch to them. So they must always be partnering with a sworn police officer. So we do try to augment our footprint with the use of auxiliaries for two reasons. One, the community loves them, and two, it's an excellent spot for us to identify future police officers. So it does serve a couple purposes. In terms of some of the partnerships we have, in terms of auto theft, thankfully, we are seeing a reduction in auto theft. Last year was a particularly difficult year. I think it was widely disseminated where organized crime agencies were stealing cars from across the country. They were being put in trucks in particular, were being put in storage boxes, taken to Montreal and shipped abroad. So with technology and our intervention with using non-law enforcement strategies, we were able to make some really positive inroads with respect to auto theft that I hope to see continue. In terms of our partnership with the Hamilton Police, I can tell you that I have had discussions with Chief Bergen about how we can further integrate our services. There's many things that we can do that I think we can find efficiencies for our service for Hamilton and ultimately for the people we serve and our funding sources as well. So that is something that we do. We are a part of 10 integrated teams. We have 20 members seconded to different integrated teams, everything from auto theft to border enforcement, security, combined forces, special enforcement units, several provincially led units that we're a part of, as we try to effectively work across the borders. Criminals don't know a timeline, they don't recognize borders, so as law enforcement agencies, we're trying to partner with agencies as best we can to really enhance all of our responses to these in a shared, coordinated way. The sharing of intelligence is better than it has ever been. The manner that we operate with our real-time operations center, our use of technology is growing in leaps and bounds as we try to enhance our service delivery. I think I got your through you, Chair, Your Worship. I think I answered your question. Okay.
Yes, through you, Mayor. Absolutely appreciate the answer. Just not to make it about my personal incident, but representing the west end of town, spillover with Hamilton is definitely a concern of a lot of residents, and I'm very happy to take some of the comments you made back to them. Thank you.
Thanks. And sorry, I didn't mean to suggest through you, Chair, that it was his issue. We've heard that from many people across the region. And I can also say that at every meeting I go to, whether it's with business improvement associations or it's meeting with elected officials that serve across the community, every single meeting that I go to, they want to see more of us. They want to see more boots on the ground. They want a more visible presence, and they want to see us getting out and engaging with all different community groups.
Just one last friendly note to end on. If you guys do need more resources, please bring the K-9 team.
Thanks. They're very effective. Thank you.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Thank you, Chief. First, I wanted to say thank you because coming out and making a presentation like this really helps people to understand how money is spent. I sent a bunch of questions today. I think that a lot of them were answered in the presentation, so thanks for that. The more boots on the ground thing is a great idea, but I think people need to understand that there's a cost associated with more boots on the ground, because everybody always says they want to see more police officers, but more police officers mean more money, and that's going to lead me to my question, which is related to the, I think, 11.23% budget increase this year at the regional level. So obviously that's a concern, because 11.23%, the police budget, I think, makes up for Grimsby 23% of our overall budget, overall tax rate. So almost a quarter. So 11.23% means that it's 2.5% direct impact on the taxpayer in Grimsby, roughly. So I guess my question about that, I've got a few questions related to budget, but first one is, how much of that growth, the 11.23%, and I skimmed through because it was massive, the document, but I understand that there are some legacy costs and things like that that need to be dealt with in that budget, which is another question that I have for you. But how does that translate to service for Grimsby, I guess, is when I see 11.23%, obviously that's a concern. It's anything over cost of living is a concern, but anything over, when it gets double digits, then it's a real concern. So how does that translate into improved service for Grimsby or service for Grimsby? Like response times, proactive patrols, because we talked about boots on the ground. What does that look like from Grimsby's perspective? Because, and I'll leave it for that.
Okay, thank you. And
through you, Mayor, I apologize if I didn't say that in the beginning.
yeah, through you. Yeah, thank you very much. So quite a few questions there. I think the question is, what's the return on investment for 11.23%? Correct? Okay, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. The increase that we have proposed and has still not been approved by Regional Council, with respect to our Regional Councillor members that are here, it really is an enhancement across our entire service. So when we increase, as an example, our homicide unit, our human trafficking unit, our child abuse unit, our sex assault unit, while those resources may not physically be situated in Grimsby, those units come here and work. So it's difficult sometimes to quantify the exact numbers associated with the return on that investment, but I can tell you that the proposal we put forward had 33 members enhanced for the front line, which is inclusive of first responders and our core units, the types of units that get out and proactively engage with the community. And then many of the specialized units that I just referenced, like homicide, human trafficking, our child abuse, sexual assault, our forensics unit, they're centralized, but they attend crime scenes across the region. Our collision reconstruction unit, they're centralized, but attend fatal collisions and serious injury collisions across the region. So many of the resources that we've asked for are centralized, but they work across the region, if that's helpful.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, those are things I think of like insurance, things that you hope you never have to use, but you know that you need to have them, and you're happy that they're out there for when they need to be called. What I saw in the budget were things like, things that actuaries have tried to take off of these types of things for a long time, like retiree benefits, for example, that are part of the police services tradition. I understand that, but are things that are difficult to cost and seem to be really putting pressure on the budgets going forward. So has there any thought been given to grandfathering those out Because from an actuarial perspective, like I've been on the other side, on the negotiating side of the table, where those things were removed, and I understand that they're very difficult to cost for because it's almost arbitrary. Those costs are almost arbitrary. You don't know how long people are going to live. Actuaries are experts, but still, has there been any thought of grandfathering those out, like for new? I'll give you an example because I'm a teacher during the day, and we used to have a retirement gratuity that when I started teaching was grandfathered out. We didn't get it anymore. Anybody who was hired after a certain date maybe received a little bit better pay or got a little bit of a sum, but knew that they weren't going to get that benefit anymore. So has that been something that's been considered in the negotiations?
Thank you for your question. Through you, Chair. You are correct. The benefits, costs like IT, subscription costs, those are all continuing to increase, not only for our sector, but for the health sector and other sectors. And many of those are contained within collective agreements. So while persons in the room or on council might think that they could be reduced, or there could be decisions made to limit the growth there, regrettably or realistically, they're contained within collective agreements that we're bound by, or IT-related costs, subscription costs that we absolutely need to sustain operations. So our base budget is very limited in terms of where we can find reductions. This year, our base budget is about 8%. That's essentially just to keep the lights on. That's a great question. We talk a lot about it.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. And it's one that comes up repeatedly within multiple fields because it's those kinds of costs that are forever costs are difficult to account for and also difficult to fund. Anyway, on a more positive note, I want to commend Staff Sergeant Bourgeois and the rest of the staff. As far as the traffic hotline is concerned, I've called for a couple of residents who have spoken to me and didn't feel comfortable calling, and staff have followed up and explained how it was dealt with, when they were there, what the result of it was. So that kind of communication is valuable, and it really makes people feel. I passed it on their behalf, but it makes people really feel comfortable about seeing something. If you call and then a few days later or even a few weeks later, you see that there's a patrol on because you were concerned about it. And then even further to that, a staff member following up and calling and saying, this is what we did. We got your call. We understood it. And we gave out 3 tickets or whatever it was. It really makes people feel a lot better about the service that's being provided. That being said, that 11.23% is a huge concern. It's one that I try to explain to people that's out of our realm of control, but it is one that the increased cost of policing is one that is definitely putting pressure on the tax bill across the region, and one that I hope we can do something to bring in check. But thank you for answering all my other questions in the presentation, Staff Sergeant, and appreciate again your presentation.
Thank you.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm out of town right now, so I'm sorry that you can't see me, but I have a few questions, and through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple questions and a couple comments. And building on Councillor DeFlavio's remarks, given that our population has increased and given our proximity to the QEW, in a way, like we're like an ideal place to hit for crime. And, we've seen the severity of crime coming up. So while I respect that in your presentation and your comments you've said so far, that, you've increased these umbrella services. But I think people would still feel a lot better if some of those increases were dedicated specifically to Grimsby, if we saw more units in Grimsby. And I don't know, is that anything that you've ever considered?
Through you, Your Worship, Councillor Vardy, thank you for your question. I agree with you that the QEW does provide an opportunity for criminals, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the back screen, to commit their crimes. In terms of enhancing the footprint in Grimsby, we have looked at enhancements across the entire region. And the reality is that the pressures are increasing and becoming increasingly complex across the region, and we're trying our best to, in a strategic way, deploy our resources and have our police officers attend the locations where we have the highest calls for service, addressing, those persons that are highest users of our service with the intended goal of reducing the calls for service. Our belief is that if we can try to reduce the calls for service, that allows our officers to have more time to be proactive in patrol, be visible, which in turn, in itself, reduces calls for service. So until we find ourselves in a situation where our officers have kind of unencumbered time to patrol, the reality is on the front line, for the most part, they're going call to call to call to call. And then our core units and our specialized services can engage in proactive policing and targeting, I think, the types of people that you're referencing in your question.
So basically, there hasn't been any consideration given to increasing the size of the unit at Station 8, which, I mean, and going back to, given that it's 2.5% of the taxes our town pays, I know it's a very sensitive point. And I think there's also, people are very sensitive that, we pay money to the region, and a lot of it goes to Niagara Falls and St. Catharines, to issues there. So we don't always feel like we're getting our fair share. So just something for you maybe to consider, maybe next time around.
Okay, well, thank you for your question, Councillor. What I would say is that in our increase this year, we have added an extra constable to each platoon in Grimsby, and we've added to the CIB office. So, well, maybe I didn't explicitly state the numbers. We are increasing the establishment in Grimsby, and as we go forward, we will continue to, as I said, try to enhance our service across the entire region, of course, inclusive of Grimsby. And I believe...
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, thank you very much. That's good to know, and that's something I don't think that we did know. One of the things that I'd like to see is to have a plan in place for when there's a major traffic incident on the QEW. Because when there's an accident, it becomes absolute gridlock in Grimsby because we don't have very many east-west traverses. And I've seen Highway 8 backed up from Grimsby past Beamsville, and the same thing going along Ridge Road right up to Mud Street, traffic, heading that direction. So, and because traffic control in Grimsby is stop signs and traffic lights, if we could even have auxiliary officers come out and help with some of the major intersections to get traffic moving. And the reason I say that, the last time we had a major incident, it was 4 hours of absolute gridlock. And all I could think of is, what if there's a fire or somebody needs an ambulance? It's not happening because there's nowhere to go. So it would be good if there were a plan in place where people could be dispatched to facilitate the movement of traffic. And I think that'll go a long way to helping us. Any thoughts on that?
Sorry. Thank Thank you, through your worship. Thank you for your question, and I know that we do work closely with our friends at the OPP who are responsible for traffic enforcement and collisions on the QEW, and I have found myself, I have many meetings in Toronto, I have found myself in the very scenario that you described in terms of the impact when there is a collision on the QEW. In terms of our ability to deploy auxiliaries, as I referenced earlier, on first blush, that might seem like a simple solution, but with an auxiliary, of course, we need to send sworn police officers, and oftentimes the auxiliaries are coming in, their volunteers are coming in their time off or in their own time. So our ability to mobilize them is a challenge. But what I would say in terms of what I would call emergency management, one of the areas that we have really tried to enhance our posture on with the support of our board is emergency management. We believe that critical infrastructure, the movement of goods across the region to the borders is of vital importance, and we have invested energies in that. The byproduct of that would be an enhancement for all the citizens, as you reference.
Okay, thank you. Just one more question and one comment. Do you have any hate crime and incident stats for Grimsby?
As I stand here, I do not have the stats for Grimsby, but that is probably something that we could get back. The staff sergeant is looking at me. We could get back to you with that sort of information through your chair.
That would be great.
Okay.
That would be great if we could get that. And just a final comment. I think the police that we do have need to be more visible. You know, and I've seen sometimes officers parked in what I'll call a quiet place, and they're doing paperwork, which is paperwork that they have to do. But if they could park in a highly visible area doing their paperwork, I think that would send a message to the community that we're here. So that's something, because I know that I know that during the summer you had somebody just do a walkabout through downtown. I thought it was great. I stopped the officer and told him how wonderful I thought it was. People need to see the police officers, and I think that'll also take some of the pressure off. We're paying, but we're not seeing. So if there's any way they can be more visible just by whatever, when they're doing paperwork, which is what they have to do, and they're sitting in the car, have them sit in a car on Main Street or somewhere where people are going to see them, or somewhere where maybe we have that sort of heat map of crime. Just lets people know they're around. The other thing, given that you've referenced these umbrella services, you know, I think it would be great. We have a market during the summer, and it's once a week. If we could have a police services booth and have, you know, maybe have some of these specialized units come and at the booth and talk about what they do. So maybe the canine unit comes out and, you know, for one evening, and everybody sees, okay, there's a canine unit, or, you know, the child abuse unit, so that people can, you know, interact with these officers and get a sense that, you know, these officers are dedicated to Grimsby. It might be a sort of easy way to raise the profile and get at a large part of the target audience. What are your thoughts on that?
Through you, thank you for your question, through you, Your Worship. I think that community engagement and mobilization is central to what we do. And you are correct, we have had open houses across the region. We can always host more. We can always do more. I think it does a couple things. One, it helps the community understand the different, the complexities of what we do and the different skill sets that our specialized units bring. It also allows us to engage directly with the community and remove some of the barriers between the people that we serve and the police. You know, at the end of the day, we can't police the community without the trust and support of the community. So this scenario that you're proposing would only enhance that. And we'll make a note, and we'll keep an eye, and we'll talk with the detachment commander about trying to identify those opportunities so that we can engage in the most meaningful way possible, recognizing we have many competing pressures. And we talked earlier with the councillor, the pressure to have more of us, but the reality of it is sometimes that comes with a cost, and it's the challenge we have, trying to be a highly effective police service, but doing it in the most efficient way we can, recognizing stewardship of public monies is a key part of what's expected of my position and the chair. We talk about kind of stewardship of public monies all the time, or frequently.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming, and I'll just add that any time that I've ever had to call the staff sergeant or the acting staff sergeant, they've been very, very responsive. So that's greatly appreciated, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, and thank you for that positive feedback about the members here. I know they do a great job, but it's nice to hear it from other people.
Councillor Frick.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. The thing about going last, all the questions have been asked already, so I'll keep it simple. I couldn't help but notice in your graphs, by the way, thank you for coming out, and thanks for the presentation, and I have had to deal with your guys locally quite frequently over the last number of terms on council, and you've been exemplary, I got to say. Thank you very much for that. I couldn't help but notice in your graphs, all of your graphs actually, it was 2020 when everything started to go north. And of course, that was the year we came out of COVID as well. Is there a correlation between the two? I mean, was all the crime pent up and all of a sudden 2020 came along and everybody decided to go out and do things?
That is an observation that we have made as well. We do think that, we know that reported incidents of domestic violence really started to take off after COVID. As I referenced earlier, I think we find ourselves in a really interesting time where we have the intersection of mental health, addiction, transnational organized crime, and border-related, national security-related issues that ultimately a police service like Niagara, who is on the border, on the water, significant landmass, combination of rural and urban policing, we're getting all of it. And it's a really interesting time. It's hard to say, sort of back to your question, if it's directly tied to COVID, but we have made those observations as well. I can't explain the reason, but yeah.
Sorry, I just thought it was kind of odd, but anyway. So the only thing I wanted to talk to you about was, which we haven't heard too much of, and that is vehicular noise. The most frequent complaint that I get in Ward 1, which covers most of Main Street East, from the border of Lincoln all the way through to just on past the Park School, there's a lot of residents along that strip. The hospital is along that strip. There's a number of retirement homes, convalescence homes, people's homes, of course, and schools. And the noise along that strip is so unbelievably bad. From, I'm not talking about service vehicles particularly, because, we know they have a point, they have to do their job. Service vehicle like ambulance or just delivery trucks, whatever, we know that they need to use that road and their noise is accepted. But I'm talking about the speeding, noisy cars and the speedy, noisy motorcycles and so on and so forth. I get so many complaints, I just stopped complaining. Now, this has come up a number of times, I think the last year or a year before, when your team came in to present to us, I brought it up. This has been going on for a while, but nobody seems to have a way of addressing it. And I know because I also border on Main Street, and I take my phone here, which has, decibel meter on it, and I know they go way beyond the noise that's accepted by the Ontario Highways Act. Is there anything you can do to address that? I know it's a tough one, but we keep talking about it, and it's kind of one of those things that falls under the radar all the time. I'm just wondering if there's anything you can do from a police perspective to address that. Maybe it's a combination of police and a town, because I don't know if signage works. when folks are driving into Grimsby, maybe there's a sign that says quiet hospital zone, or we're a noise-free community, or whatever, I don't know. Is there something we can do or you can do?
Thank you for your question, and Your Worship, I wonder if I might invite the Staff Sergeant to come up and speak to this local, what I see as a pretty local issue, I think. Is that okay, sir?
I'm sure that goes
Thank
all
you.
the way across town, but I'm just talking about my own ward here.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. Thank you. As noted in the slideshow, I would encourage anybody with concerns about excessive noise related to vehicular traffic to utilize our traffic hotline. There was a phone number on there, an email address, and as well there's an online form. In respect to the actual offense, it was alluded to me that this question was coming. We have laid provincial offense notices in respect to excessive noise. We're averaging 10 a year. It's certainly not as many as speeding tickets that we're issuing, but we are issuing tickets. The Highway Traffic Act is worded in such that a vehicle is not allowed to make excessive noise. And it's the word excessive is very subjective in nature. I have laid the ticket myself in the past, and if it was fought, it's up to me to explain before a judge or a justice of the peace what excessive is. But currently, the way the Ontario Highway Traffic Act is written, there is no decibel level. There might be, and I apologize, I'm not an expert in your bylaws or other town bylaws. Maybe a bylaw might stipulate a certain noise level, but the Highway Traffic Act in its current format does not.
I thought when I read it, and it's a pretty big act, that I did see a note to decibels, and I think it was 92 point something or other. I can't remember now, but I know it's somewhere in the 90s. I know they did specify a decibel. Maybe they've changed it since I last read it, but not that I sit down and read the Traffic Act all the time. It's not one of my most favorite pastimes. But anyways, so what you're saying is there's nothing you can do?
No, there is something we can do, and I encourage members of the public to use our phone number and the email, or call us when there is excessive noise, and if we have units available, we will respond to the area. And if the officers locate the vehicles and deem the noise to be excessive, it would be up to their discretion as to whether to lay an offense. Options include laying a provincial offense notice or a warning.
It's a tough one to police because a lot of these vehicles are passing through.
I appreciate that.
And I guess one of the comments or one of the suggestions I had when I complained myself was, can you get the license plate number? Well, that's pretty impossible to get because by the time you get out to the road, they're 5 miles away. But anyway, I think we should, I just hope it's on your radar and we can do something about this because it is beginning a bit of a nuisance. But anyways, once again, thank you all for coming out. Really appreciate the presentation. And I'm sure we've all gained a lot of insight as to what you guys do, and we do appreciate it.
Thank you
very much. Thank you.
Councillor Sharwell.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. This is to the chief, actually. I just had 2 comments. You don't need to respond. I just thinking about this after. I had received a few, some concerns from parents in the past related to their children that were having some mental health issues, and there was a response. And I just want to relay the importance of making sure that the response for mental health, specifically for first-time occasions, that it is, very carefully managed, just so that it's not a traumatic event, because what I've gathered from people that have never spoken to each other, they've had situations that have created trauma, so I just want to make sure that that's something that we address. And the second thing is concerning the 8 district hours. So currently, right now, the front desk hours are from 8 till 2:30 p.m. Monday to Friday, and that's it. And I just want to eliminate barriers so that people that are working 9 to 5 still have the opportunity to come in and file a complaint if they need to. So I don't know if you need to shift the hours around, but if there was some time that you could, provide, something beyond 2:30, that would be great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Howe.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Chief, there's a lot of noise going on about the ASC cameras and discontinuing them. Got a couple questions, and I did forward it. I don't know if you got any advance, but for instance, a speeding ticket, what's it cost to issue that ticket using an ASC camera? And then what is the cost to have a officer in a car with a radar to issue the same value of ticket, the same offense? They're doing still, going a certain speed, but is there a noticeable cost difference? And incorporating into that also incidents that the traffic officers are involved in, and that could be hostile drivers, could be being nicked by cars driving past in excessive speeds and whatnot. And how many lost time incidents did we notice with an ASC camera? Like, did ASC cameras miss any days of work? I'm being facetious on that one, Chief, but what I'm getting at is we talk about AI, we talk about using technology to be more productive. And what we've done and what the province has done is rip that possibility of the AI or the technology away from you guys. So let's jack up the cost for something that we can do with the machine. So that's completely contrary to what anybody wants to do. Now, if that works for everybody, I guess that's really neat. But I think I'd rather see the production up, the efficiency up, and the same amount. Actually, I'd rather see no speeding tickets at all, but that's not going to happen. But technology and the use of, is there a gain? And you don't have to answer that. I mean, there's a lot of numbers in there, but it sure as heck is in good use of people.
Well, seeing no further questions, thank you very much, everyone, for coming out. It's really good to have these type of delegations where we can actually communicate, and it was just very pleasurable to get the side of the police's story and put a face to everyone. It just makes a lot more sense. The more communication we can do, and certainly seeing officers downtown and seeing officers around, this is all part of it. And when you are doing events and things like that, it just that's part of the face of the police that I think just adds to it as a community, and we're happy to see that and really appreciate you coming out tonight, so thank you. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the presentation? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Charwa. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Charwa. Resolved that the presentation from Niagara Regional Police be received. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, next we have... Yeah, well, we'll just wait a minute until they leave. Have a good evening, and thanks for coming out, everyone. Up next, we have Marilyn McCrae, delegating on the Beaver Conservation Area. Marilyn, please come to the podium. Good evening.
This one. There we go.
There you are.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Marilyn McCrae. I live at 26 Hemlock. I want to speak to Beamer Conservation Area because it's a very timely matter. Thank you for demonstrating your leadership in 2023 when I came before you and asked for your support on behalf of the Beamer Conservation Area. I can tell you that this council's decision at that time and the action was a very popular decision that was applauded widely in our community. Your leadership was instrumental in protecting the integrity of Beamer at that time. Your voice of support resulted in a back to the drawing board by the NPCA on their proposals for some changes at Beamer. that included expanding parking and building more facilities and recreational installations. Today, I'm here to ask you for that, to demonstrate that same leadership to ensure that we have a sustainable stewardship of Beamer. The NPCA has launched a new management plan for Beamer for implementation in 2026. So the time is now for Grimsby to state your commitment again for the preservation, conservation, and protection of Beamer. Please keep Beamer as it is, a unique, one-of-a-kind conservation areas. In the last year, I did some observational on-the-ground research. I spent over 2 months and did 50 hikes extending over 2 hours each. And I can unequivocally tell you the following. Beamer is a unique conservation area in Niagara that can be accessed without any vehicular support. In other words, you don't need a car to get there. It offers the rare opportunity to walk directly from the urban environment of downtown Grimsby to a setting that is a forest without any need of transportation. Beamer is also unique in that it is situated in an area that provides clean air that we breathe every day. This is essential to the well-being and health of our community, an invaluable natural asset. The Beamer canopy makes up about 10% of the overall canopy of Grimsby. That means it is a key absorber of greenhouse gases to the urban lifestyle we live in. We have many mature trees in Beamer, so there's many lots in Beamer that are not less than 100 years old, and the Carolinian Forest is home to many of those. People come here to admire the Carolinian Forest, and the locals have the bragging rights for it. These trees make up an important heritage moment in our community that we don't always recognize. Another key feature of Beamer that makes it unique is there are no fees to park at Beamer. Many conservation areas in Niagara and in other areas charge for parking. Beamer is free, and this is a very unique feature that we've collectively stated we value as a community, as more and more of us have to make choices about our disposable income. Beamer acts as a release valve for free access to nature in our backyard. The other thing that I'd like to mention that Beamer really needs, and I hope that the council will consider this, is we need better wayfinding signage that is well maintained and kept up. The washroom is always closed, and I understand that there's some vandalism there, but it's a very antiquated building. And the parking lot that we do have is sometimes unusual because of the size of the potholes and the randomness with which people park. The improvement suggestions that I'd like you to consider advocating for is that we connect Beamer in some way to some of the amenities that we already have on the mountain, which is Southward Park. There's plenty of playground equipment, and it's slightly more than 2.5 kilometers to connect a passive conservation area at Beamer to a major park that we've invested in and is a very good park. I'd like to suggest to the NPCA that they tear down the existing washroom and put in something that's more environmentally friendly. There are innovations in outdoor washrooms that ensure privacy and comfort for users. My third recommendation is that we improve the pathway between the Scouts Hut and the side trail over the creek at Ridge Road. This is a well-used trail, but it's very ad hoc and it's very unsafe. And I see children and people with their dogs, people forced onto the road. It's quite an unsafe situation. And the fourth one is the mitigation of the invasive species that are proliferating in Beamer. My fifth recommendation would be that we encourage NPCA to have a code of conduct. This relates to things like picking our flowers, our plants, and our tree. I've seen people dig up a tree, literally out of Beamer. So those are things that the NPCA has to advocate are not appropriate. And also the use of bikes at Beamer is a bona fide issue with many of the hikers and the casual walkers. Six, there is, as we understand it from the public open house that was held a couple of months ago, NPC has acquired about 16 acres of additional lands, but they were not very forthcoming with what the purpose of those lands would be, and they run adjacent to the conservation area. So I would ask you to seek clarification on what is the vision that the NPC has for those additional lands. I ask you to deliver this message on behalf of all of us who live in Grimsby, because Beamer Conservation is our community backyard, and we'd like it to remain a passive, natural, walkable environmental asset. Simply stated, Beamer is a natural space of peace, tranquility. It is a sanctuary for anyone who goes there. I know I don't have to tell this council how fragile our conservation area is, how every intervention we make has unforeseen and foreseen impacts. All installations have a ripple effect on the nature's ability to adapt to us. Let's keep it as natural as we can and advocate for its preservation, protection, and maintenance of this priceless asset that we all enjoy. Rather than ask nature to bend to our desires, let the forest be the playground, the creek be the water feature, and Beamer remain a vibrant ecosystem that is home to both the fish and the animals. Thank you.
Thank you for your delegation, Marilyn.
Thank you.
I would like to reiterate that what was said at the last council meeting, that staff have been engaging with the NPCA on Beamer Conservation Area project. The NPCA fully intends to attend a council meeting in the future to share some of their findings and recommendations. This will likely occur in spring of 2026. Questions from council? Councillor Sharwal.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for coming. Councillor Kristangi and I are regulars, and we always see you. So we know that, we are very much I'm very much in support of everything that you said as far as keeping it passive. I would agree that the signage is very important every time. It feels like every time Councillor Kristangi and I are hiking, somebody's asking us where the falls are. And they have no idea, or they don't know how to get into town, if that's an option too. So I think that would be a great benefit. I would say that the washrooms are pretty well maintained, although they're locked. I find that one's usually open and they do maintain it. So I don't know that they need to provide that, but I'm open to it if they are. Very much interested in what the 60 kilometers, or was it, how much land did they acquire, sorry?
16 acres.
16 acres, okay, yes, very much interested in knowing what their plans are for that. So again, thank you for coming, and I support what you said. Thanks.
Councillor Kristangi.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I absolutely agree with everything you said. Yes, we're often up there, and the wayfinding would be an incredible benefit for many people using the area. I do notice they put a boot wiper. I don't know, that's not the right word, but at the top, but it might be beneficial at the bottom because often we go up from the bottom and then you're tracking through, so it's kind of counterproductive. One of the recommendations I would make is a dog waste bag bin, because often we see litter of people picking up the waste but then just tossing the bags everywhere. So I think all your suggestions are fantastic, and absolutely one of the key ones is it's free. Last summer I went to a few conservations and it's a hefty price to park, and at some of them you had to reserve a spot to park and prepay with a credit card, and there was a thing, and it was expensive. And to be honest with you, we just had the Niagara Regional Police here talking about the correlation of mental health and crime and everything that comes with that. And here we have this wonderful nature that it's open to the community, and we need to preserve it and keep it accessible for everybody. So thank you for your delegation. It always takes a lot to come up and speak to everybody. And I can, well, speak for myself. I'm absolutely in agreement, and I will absolutely advocate for Beamers to remain the way it is.
Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Marilyn, thank you for being a champion for us, because Beamer, you're right, Beamer is really a jewel within Grimsby, and it's, I mean, I don't go there maybe as frequently as you do, but when I do go there, I mean, it is, you really get away from the crazy world we live in, and you really become part of nature. And you're right, like the fauna, the animals, I mean, there's so many things going on there, and you just get a chance to see what nature is all about. And, you know, I think I do commend you for coming to council and doing this delegation. I'd like to suggest that you ensure that the MPCA gets a copy of your delegation notes. And I'm sure you have been already talking to them anyways, knowing you. So I did meet with one of them there recently. The MPCA had a booth at one of the conferences I was at, and they said they were coming. They were going to be presenting something, I don't know what, related to the 16 acres that are on the corner. So that I think is forthcoming. So hopefully they won't put in more parking lots and paved places up there, because I don't think that's what we need. I think when that parking lot is full, and I think the park is full, or the Beamer Falls is full, because people come up from the bottom, from Main Street there, and people come in from the top. So If you start opening up that and making more parking, more people will come, and it'll just become like a traffic, it'll be just too much traffic up there. There has to be a limit to what goes up there. Anyways, thank you very much. Appreciate the delegation.
Thank you, councillors, for your voice of support. And I can tell you that during COVID, when we saw so many visitors come, there was a lot of stress on Beamer. Not only garbage, but cars, and the speed of the traffic and the volume of the traffic was very challenging. But I know this council in its heart believes in the value that Beamer brings to our community, and I really appreciate it on behalf of the residents. Thank you so much.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you. Through you to Marilyn, Mayor. Thanks again for the presentation. I understand your concerns. At the same time, not all change is bad, in my opinion. So, the improvements to the washrooms, for example, were one of the things that were brought forward when they came before council the last time. Improvements to access were items that were brought forward. And by pushing back, we also push back on some of the things that you were asking for, because some of the things that you're asking for are things that they brought forward in their presentation. We, in our struggle against the increased parking and the cutting down of some of those trees there, we also said no to improved bathrooms and improved other things. I've brought my class there over the years. I think it's important to remember that not every conservation, that what I want in the conservation and what you want in the conservation area and what other members of the public want are not always the same thing. And that's why this conservation plan that they're going through, the process they're going through, is an important one, so they can engage multiple members of the community. Because I can tell you that when my kids were very young and in strollers, the level ground at Beamer Conservation Area up on top was one of the most important features for me, because I could push a stroller through there, my kids could walk, I didn't have to worry about it. When my kids got a little older, we went to different areas. We climbed up from the bottom because they could do it, but it's not, that conservation area is not the same for every person that goes there, and we need to recognize that. And I do want to see enhanced accessibility within the conservation area. So if that means some loose gravel, some other things that within those pathways to make that a reality in the future, I'm willing to listen to the MPCA and see what they have to say. But for the most part, I agree with what you're saying. I just want to make sure that what I believe for the MPCA is not the only thing that's out there. And so what I think we need to do is encourage members of the public as a whole to get their ideas in there, so it does take into consideration everybody's needs and not just my needs as a middle-aged man. Thanks.
If I may, through the mayor, there is a survey, and it's posted and it's open, and I think it closes in about 3 weeks, so there is that opportunity for the public to share their views.
Great. Thank you again for your presentation, Marilyn. Beamer is certainly a jewel. It's one of the few spots where you can see trees that are 500 to the cedars on the escarpment edge, where some of them are over 1,000 years old. So it's not everywhere you can find things like that. I need a mover and seconder to receive the delegation. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Corstangi. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Corstangi. Resolved that the delegation from Marilyn McRae be received. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we move to chair's reports. Councillor Frank, can you please give your chair report? You can just wait a couple minutes till everyone leaves. Nothing like a corporate services report to clear the room. Go ahead, Councillor Frank.
Anyway, thank you, Mayor Jordan. So anyways, let me get my specs here. Yeah, we held the Corporate Services Committee meeting on the 10th of November. Where there was only 3 really basically items on the agenda. We had 2 discussion reports and 1 memo/correspondence. The discussion reports included the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy. Now that we're coming into next year, we will be all have to be very much aware of the rules and conditions and policies and that surround what we can and can't do in terms of election campaigning. And the clerks brought the report forward. There were some slight changes, nothing of consequence, but at the same time, it did note that there are restrictions as to how we use social media, how we use town resources like the websites or even our laptops and so on and so forth. So it was I do recommend we all look at that policy. It's quite long, and there's a lot of interesting things in there that we need to be aware of. The second discussion report was from bylaw, and it dealt with animal control services. We're now in the midst of, actually, we just finished selecting the next year's, I think it's 4 years, actually, 4-year contract for animal control services, and we're switching from let's see, we're switching from, we're not switching, so we're remaining, aren't we? Yes, right. So we're sticking with the Greater Niagara. Say it for me.
It's the Greater Niagara Humane Society of Greater Niagara, which was formerly known as the Lincoln County Humane Society.
So, yeah, the first year, there's hardly any change. There is a cost, of course, attached to that. It's in our budget. It's already been approved. But the net cost next year is negligible. Well, it won't change at all. It's a 4-year contract, and it goes into effect in January. We did receive a memo from the clerk's office about voting services for 2026. We are going to be using New Vote to manage our ballots and our voting system and process. I'm not sure who we used last time around. Are they the same ones? I can't remember. Anyways, that's who we're using, and that's pretty much what the region is using as well. So that was it. If there's a lot of policy jargon attached to all this, I do recommend everybody read it, especially going into next year. Anyway, thank you, Mayor. That's it.
All right, seeing no questions, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the previous minutes? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolved that the following minutes be approved. Council, November 3rd, 2025. Corporate Services Committee, November 10th, 2025. And Special Council, November 10th, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, can I have a mover and seconder to receive the board minutes? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that the following board minutes be received. Grimsby Public Library Board, October 8th, 2025. Committee of Adjustment, October 21st, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. Are there any announcements this evening? And just one that I'd really like to talk about is we had the pleasure of being at West Lincoln Memorial Hospital on Thursday, or was it Friday? On Friday for the opening and the ribbon cutting, and the Premier was there, as well as Minister Sylvia Jones, and MPP Oosterhoff, along with the other mayors of West Niagara, and it was just a great pleasure to actually cut that ribbon. Councillor Seaborn was there as well, and it was something that it was just a long time coming, and so many people involved in getting us across the finish line, and it was just really moving to be there, actually, and the hospital is just an amazing new facility. It shows a lot of history with vignettes of our past and old plaques and other things from the original West Lincoln Memorial Hospital, and it was just something that we finally did it, and it's something that was very emotional being there that day, and it is opening fully, I believe, on November 24th. So it's something that really was an honor to be there. Councillor Charwa.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Thank you. I just wanted to point out that some of our councillors were at the Curl for Kids' Sake. So Councillor DeFlavio, myself, and then Councillor Corstangi got the call in to come, as well as our Director of Community Services. It was a great event in honor of Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Niagara. Obviously there's a lot of mentorship that happens through this program that's really improving the quality of life for our Grimsby youth. And so currently right now they have 11 active one-to-one membership matches in Grimsby currently, and there are 24 plus young people waiting for a mentor in Grimsby. So if you would like to volunteer, there are several options, minimum of 1 hour required. So it's a great event, and it was lovely to see so much community support, and our Grimsby firefighters were there supporting as well. So it's a great event. Thank you.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Further to that, I don't know if Councillor Frake was going to mention it, but we did have the Glam Gala the Friday before as well. And what I wanted to add to what Councillor Charwa was saying is at all these events that we attend throughout town, and when you were at the hospital, I'm sure you saw the wall up of sponsorship. What we see again and again is, and I wanted to thank, it doesn't, not individually, but all of the sponsors that make these things possible, like whether it's at the Glam Gala, and I see, I'm going to use as an example Harmony House, who donated all of the bracelets, or at the Curl for Kids' Sake, where Lynn Fee's team always has a couple of teams there. Like all of these community members that constantly give back and sponsor all these different things. We're not a huge community, and they get called on repeatedly, and they always step up. So it warms my heart when I go to these things and I see the same names again and again and again, always stepping up to make the donation. So I wanted to give a shout out to all those sponsors. I'm sorry that I didn't mention all of them. There were a couple that came to mind there because we were at those last two events, but I'm talking about all of the businesses in town that make these contributions, because it does make a huge difference when you go there and these prizes are given by local businesses that are giving back to the community again and again. Thanks, Mayor.
All right. Up next, we have Councillor Seaborn, who's going to give her regional update. Welcome to the podium.
Thank you very much. I'm quite used to this. Just about everywhere I go, I'm either raising something or lowering it. Thank you very much, Mayor Jordan and Council, and it's great to be here again tonight. Wasn't here in September. There wasn't a whole lot going on in September, so I thought I'd bring a few little notes with me today and just touch on a few things that I thought were pretty interesting. First of all, the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce hosted the Niagara Economic Summit in October, which was attended by several staff and councillors at both the region and the town. This year's theme was Navigating Global Shifts, the Niagara's Moment to Lead. It takes place during a period of significant change. Economies are evolving, technologies and transformations are all around us, and global conditions continue to shift. These changes bring about challenges, but also incredible opportunities for regions to act decisively and think ahead. Not all the news presented was good news, but the panels and the presenters painted a picture of optimism and confidence moving forward. Regional staff are looking into physician recruitment for the region. In 2025, 27 new physicians have come to Niagara, 3 of which are here in Grimsby. There's also 38 family doctors that are still accepting new patients in Niagara. For anybody that's looking for a family doctor, there is a tool on the Niagara website. It's called Find a Doctor, and it will help place you with a family doctor who is still accepting patients. The region said goodbye to Regional Chair Jim Bradley at a memorial service on October 4th. Since his passing in September, Council has had regional councillors fill in the chair's position on a monthly basis until the province appoints a new regional chair to finish the term of council. Chair Bradley had a long, a long public service career, and he will be missed. Recent news from the province is no news to this council, apparently. It confirms that the municipal automated speed camera program has now been disbanded. The 14th of November was the date for everything to be taken down. There may be still frames of the cameras, but the cameras are not in service. In fact, there has been no tickets issued since Bill 56 was first introduced. The speed zones will remain. The signage warnings will be there to remind you of the reduced speeds. And we're quite sure that in these sensitive areas, it's hoped that the signage and the bollards will remind people to slow down a bit. Many people have asked me, and I would only bring this up because I've had so many people ask me about the new paintings on the exit ramps or on the roads that have just been finished by the MTO. These cross hatchings are there to advise drivers to move to the center of the line and into that other space that was created. I'm not making this up. They really did think that you needed to have those extra painted lines there to remind you to move to the center of the road. On a similar note, if you're driving on Christie Street between Clark and the South Surface Road, you'll notice that the lights are no longer in sync. It has been reported, and they are looking into it. It becomes a problem when you get through the first light and you get stopped at the second light and you're a transport truck or a bus, because now you're blocking all the cars that are on Clark trying to go east and west. It requires some synchronization from the vendors that take care of it, and it should be done fairly soon. The last thing I wanted to mention, and it's kind of timely because I've heard mental health mentioned quite a few times tonight. The region has finally received provincial funding for the Niagara Heart, which is the Homeless Addiction Recovery Treatment Hub. It will be led by the Gateway Residential and Community Support Services. This multidisciplinary team-based center provides treatment for addiction and mental illness and connects individuals who experience chronic homelessness with some housing. The Niagara Heart Hub will be located on Queenston Street in St. Catharines and will be co-located with the Quest Community Health Center and the Aboriginal Center. Although located in St. Catharines, it will provide regional support. The hub providers will travel to your location and provide treatment. There's no bed-based treatment for this program, but those providers will take any clients that need such to the appropriate locations. The contact for the Gateway is Shelley, who can be reached at the address I left for you, which is shelley.m@gatewayofniagara.ca. And that's my report for today.
Thank you very much, Councillor Seaborn. Any questions? Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Thanks, Councillor Seaborn. So we talked to the police tonight about the budget, and the speed camera question was brought up. And I guess now that we are at the end of the speed camera program, I would love to see a final report on financially the impacts of the speed program. I mean, the police officers, for example, mentioned, I think, 212 speeding tickets, 214 tickets. for a year. I would imagine for the speed camera on Main Street East, that was a good week. So, that's both being facetious and not, because I honestly believe that there were a lot of tickets given out. So I'd love to see the data on that, because as Councillor Howe pointed out, having a passive speed enforcement is a lot less it's a lot more cost effective than having somebody who makes $120,000 sitting there with a radar gun who has to pull over. So as much as I hated the speed cameras, I understood that they were effective and they were efficient. So, really what they were asking people to do was slow down for 100 meters. It wasn't like a huge ask of people. So it was kind of a voluntary tax that people were participating in when they were speeding through that area. So I'd love to see, and not obviously I don't expect you to have this data now, but we're coming to the end of 2025. So if you can get us the final numbers on that, if they're out there, or if they come out in January or February, and bring that back to us, I think it would be nice for people to know the financial impact of the speed cameras on the regional budget, how we're going to have to replace that with financing from somewhere else. Because I would have loved to see that money go towards the 11% increase in the police budget this year, for example. So I know that Doug Ford was solving a problem that he himself created in this case, because they allowed the speed cameras, which were never allowed in the past. Actually, I think it was Mike Harris's government that allowed them for a bit in the 90s, and they were, you might remember the vans on the side of the road that people lost their minds about and then were taken out pretty quickly because of complaints back then. But anyway, if you can get us some of that data, I apologize for the speech here, but if you can give us some of that data, I think it would be important information for people to have going forward.
Absolutely. They've told us there will be a report from the entire program up to the end of the date. There's a couple of little things there that you'll also find out too, and they'll have the full statistics, how many issues and what have you, or tickets issued and what have you. Yep.
Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. I was reading part of the St. Catharines Standard. It was blocked actually, but I had read, the title that got my attention. It said, Niagarans currently face a 10% region tax hike for 2026. Childcare programs, winter road maintenance, industrial development charges, and much more are on list of potential program cuts as council faces some unpleasant options. So the fact that it's 10% that we're potentially considering to add to our budget is a big concern. Another concern has to do with the development charges. I think it was close to $1 million that were just waived for a developer, I believe, in Niagara-on-the-Lake area, and obviously that's going to impact us. Can you just speak to some of the cuts and where we are with the budget, and where you've spoken on, or Mayor Jordan as well, how this is going to affect us in Grimsby?
First of all, nothing has been settled with the budget. We are still in budget talks. We had a marathon appointment last Thursday. We have another one this Thursday. In fact, they've actually made it a little earlier so that we can have lots of fun with that. Nothing is set yet. A 10% budget is not going to be something that this council is going to accept. We have requested a 3.5 budget, which is where they're saying there's going to have to be some cuts to get to that point. More realistic is about 5%, but I hate throwing numbers out at this point because they're not set. Similar to the police budget, as Chief Forty said, we're asking for this, but we have a rock bottom that we're going to settle for. So we have budget talks now right through till the end of December. And I would be quite surprised if you see the numbers that you've heard tonight.
Sorry, just in addition to this, I'm wondering if there's been talks as far as the staff, the planning staff there, because they don't have the same responsibilities now that they did before. Has there been any talks about restructuring?
There's a lot of restructuring going on right now, and a lot of the people that were doing planning before are working with Public Works, because there's still planning involved when it comes to roads, and the planning involved with some of the infrastructure that's going on. We have a lot of cuts in front of us. In fact, it's been about 4 days' worth of going through the paperwork that they've left for us for Thursday's meeting, that it gives us a lot of really rough things that we have to consider. And can't say anything yet because we don't know. But yes, there's some pretty hard decisions in front of us that we'll work through with the best interest in our community at mind.
I don't see any further questions. Thank you for your presentation, Council.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, and thank you for your remarks about the hospital. It was truly a very emotional meeting that day. It was well met, and we're well deserving. Thanks and good night.
Can I have a mover and seconder to get the overview and comments on Bill 60 report on the floor for discussion? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Sharwa. All right. Yeah, Terry, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this report. The province has again released an omnibus bill. This one impacts 18 different pieces of legislation. And of course, they've given us a 30-day comment period. So this report tries to provide the highlights of the bill. And there's a number of associated Environmental Registry of Ontario postings and regulatory registering postings that are related to the legislation. So they are more consultative in nature, so they're not directly reflected in the bill itself, but they relate to statements made as part of the announcement. So we've just tried to outline some of the key topics. So there's some in transit and transportation. Some of those in transit, we're not quite sure exactly how they'll impact us. They're mostly, they could impact us in the future, but we're not sure until we actually have a GO station and we have some of the details for that, of how they might impact us. You've probably heard about some of the prohibiting vehicle lane reduction and new bicycle lanes. I think in Grimsby, the advice we've got is that it might not really impact us because our lanes are already narrow, our rights of way are fairly narrow, so it might not fully impact us as much as other places. Some of the Public Transportation and Highway Improvement Act changes, they really deal with providing standards for implementation. The challenge I think the staff really expressed was we're not quite sure exactly what they're changing. So until we see some of those regulations, we're not going to have a full knowledge of really what they do impact, recognizing, of course, that a standard across Ontario might not be helpful because there's different contexts, there's different communities, there's different climates. We're different, so whether it be materials or whether it be size and scope, you need to really look at the context. Water, wastewater, of course, they are looking at making a water and wastewater standalone unit for the region of Peel, but they're saying that could be an open policy that they could consider elsewhere. So we just don't know the impact today on Niagara, but it is something, of course, to consider. There are some changes to sewage works for on-farm worker housing. Currently, the region does that work right now. So we're just not sure. They want to move it to our building departments to review those things. So until they, again, create the regulations, we'll not know exactly some of the impact there. Some of the Development Act, Charges Act changes, they really implement some of the stuff that Bill 17 talked about more recently. So they're further implementing those. And they apparently reflect some of the requests that AMO has requested of that as well. For the Planning Act, I think these are probably the most significant changes that we saw. So they talk about enhanced development standards. So the City of Toronto has a number of green building standards. So that would be things like green roofs or just the requirements for landscaping or trees or such. There are some things that we normally do as part of a development application, like requiring native species. There's no point in planting something that's not going to survive. So there are some things that really make sense to keep in there. So having an outright prohibition might not be an advisable thing, and that's part of the commentary we've provided. The province also compared minimum lot sizes across multiple communities. Again, we've all developed differently, all of our communities. So the minimum lot sizes, say in the 80s, might be way different than they are today. And most communities have reduced our sizes, but again, it's really a nature of the context of our communities. So those are comments we've tried to provide. The smallest lot sizes that they were proposing, we do have a similar lot size for some of our more smaller size unit developments. So they're in line, but again, it has to look at the context of the community and if they have servicing and many other considerations. For minor variances, they are proposing to make some of those as of right. And this would remove that from the decision by our Committee of Adjustment, which I think we've discussed when we talked about Bill 17. They're expanding that as well, but until we see the regulation, it's hard to know. I think one of the big challenges for us is that it would just be as of right. So just going down the line, you might not understand if it's been approved or not, if it's legal non-conforming or not. So one of the things we've suggested is if within a certain range, that maybe that be a staff approval component, that it just has an approval thing so that you can still make sure you're looking at different components if it's not going to that Committee of Adjustment. Although not having the opportunity for the community to express their opinion is also a challenge in some of these changes. And then, so that they have some changes to the minister's zoning orders, that they can make decisions without regard to provincial policy statements, which we're really not sure exactly what they're looking at right now. Again, the transit station area changes, we're just not quite sure what it could be. I think the biggest one that we're concerned about right now is also the simplifying and standardizing official plans. As you know, we've just released our draft official plan. So the idea that we should all have the same basic official plan and going with the same chapters and same schedules doesn't quite work. Some of us have the Niagara Escarpment plan, some of us have the Greenbelt plan, some of us don't. Some of us are farmland, some of us are Northern Ontario. Not all communities are the same. So having a standardized list of this is what you must have and this is what you must do, it doesn't reflect the needs and the context and the feedback we get from the community. So it's really kind of disconcerting that the province is proposing that. So you'll see the comments on that section are significantly longer. But that gives you an overview. The comments, I did look today, and this bill has actually received second reading, and they're moving to third reading, and comments are due by the 22nd.
So yet another omnibus bill that has so many things that still you're making comments on things that haven't even been finalized. So that makes it very difficult right from the start. So one would almost say foolhardy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are some of those consultation efforts, and that's what we tried to focus on, because we know some of the legislation is the legislation, but they're talking about regulation development. So hopefully some of our comments can be considered there.
All right, Councillor DeVoley.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. You kind of had a lead in there too, where I was thinking too. This is a big bill with a lot of implications, and it is really important that we analyze it, which you have done so thoroughly here, together with so many other staff members. And that part is good. I think the part that always concerns me is they give us, a 30-day comment period, and then everyone submits their comments, and the question at the end of the day always is, how much did they listen to us, right? So the analysis, no matter what, needs to be done so that we know what we're dealing with in upcoming legislation. Sometimes the frustrating part is that they don't always listen to us, even when we give them our best advice, right? And so my question to you is, when some of the dust settles on this, when the legislation is finally passed, I'd be really interested in knowing what changes, if any, they made. Is that possible? Can you return to us another day with, I'm going to say in January, February, sometime to say, well, this is where they appeared to listen, and this is where it doesn't look like they did it at all. Could you give us an update in the future?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, some of the challenges that we have with the legislation is they will bring it through to third reading, give it royal assent, but they might not proclaim it right away. So some of those there's still things in Bill 23 which happened in 2022 that are not proclaimed. So the timeline doesn't always line up to say, yes, we can definitely do that. We don't always know when some of the regulations come out. So some of it comes out in dribs and drabs, and sometimes it just comes with like a big bulk. So we definitely report back on big changes that we see that are impacting our operations and changes that we know we'll have to make. So we do try to report, but it's always a little bit staggered. So it's not going to be a fulsome report that we can provide. Sorry.
Well, I think where I'm really going, or my deeper concern is that truly we need to look at these things, and you've done that in-depth analysis of it. My frustration still is always that, they say, oh, you have a 30-day comment period, or you have a 14-day one, or you have a 6-day one, or whatever number they choose. And then not only do we analyze it like the report you have for us tonight, we try and summarize that into, I'll say, a report or a letter that we then submit as well. And I'll call it my concern, and that's my nice outside voice that I'm using, but I always am concerned that they're not really listening. And is some of the work that we're doing and some of the comments that we're submitting really worth the time and effort to submit?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as part of there's two reasons for this report. One is to give council an understanding of the scope and the breadth of this as well. So that's part of the analysis, to also look at our impact. Sometimes they listen, and sometimes they listen over time. It's sometimes that they change things again, and we've seen that a few times. So it's not always perfect the first time, but sometimes they do listen, recognizing that there are implementation flaws.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. I like your optimism with the sometimes they listen part. I haven't seen any evidence of that. And in fact, the bill itself speaks to the not wanting to listen. It takes power out of local control and puts it at the provincial level. So it's the opposite of listening, really. The whole bill is based on the idea of not listening, right? I mean, taking planning control out of local hands and putting it at a provincial level. I've been involved in official plans. You have, everybody around this table has. The whole point of an official plan is that it's as local as you can get. It is specific to the area. And saying that there is a provincial standard, I can understand maybe having sections that each official plan, and then some would find that relevant and some would find that irrelevant. There's tender fruit land section, where 90% of the province wouldn't require that, but we would. So that would be in our official plan. That kind of provincial official plan guideline, so that it makes it easier to follow, maybe. But I don't think that official plans are the problem. I think it's the local control that's the problem that they're trying to solve. I wanted to ask you a question about I think part of the act is a Water and Wastewater Public Corporations Act, and I don't know what that means. It seems to take control of water and wastewater. I think it's intended for Peel, where they had the issue between Mississauga and Brampton. But if it goes throughout the province, what would that mean for Grimsby? And if you can't answer that, maybe you can send that out as an email, because it seems to be not privatization, but separation of those services from the municipality in a kind of a Public Utilities Commission sort of approach to things. When I was at Western, that was what they did there, was they had a Public Utilities Commission, and they ran separately from the municipality that kind of infrastructure. Can you speak to that a bit? If you know, if you don't, then you can send it to us.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know about this much, not the full depth. I know through the consultations with removing responsibility from Peel Region, they had a panel, and they have extensively looked at different components, including infrastructure in Peel Region. So they have had significant conversations. This bill is trying to say that because the region used to do water, wastewater, and the three municipalities didn't. So this would give that power to the three municipalities as a shared entity, sort of like Niagara Regional Transit. In that kind of concept is what it sounds like. What it looks like in Niagara, I think what we say here is that we would have to see if this came to Niagara, there'd have to be significant consultations, and we would need to have that opportunity to have a similar level of how that could work possibly here.
Thank you. And last thing, and thanks, Jerry. If you get more information on that or how that would affect Grimsby, I'd love to know about it, because that's one that kind of raised a red flag for me. The last thing I wanted to mention was the MZOs, the ministerial zoning orders that were really never used in the history of Ontario, but now seem to be like a way of doing things. I don't know what kind of feedback we can give on those, but I think that our feedback has to be continuously that planning must be local. And ministerial zoning orders are a way of superseding local planning, which the irony of seeking consultation on something that removes consultation is not lost on me. But I think that the gist of what we say to the province should always be that it should be a local process, that we understand there's provincial regulations that we intend to follow, but planning needs to be local. And I think that's kind of what we've discussed, but I want to make sure that that is the crux of what we're giving back to them, and that they should not be removing local input, local accountability, because we live in the community. So the further it gets away from the community, the less accountability there is. And it makes it a lot easier to make a decision that is not for the best of the community. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it does make that a lot easier when the person who's making that decision has no skin in the game. So I thank you for your presentation. And if you can get us more information on that public works stuff, I'd really appreciate it. I can ask Brandon too, if you want.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a suggestion, given that this is legislation that's getting voted on, why don't we share our most pressing concerns with our MPP, Stan Oosterhoff, so that he's aware. So when it comes time to discuss this bill, he knows what some of the issues are that are causing us some consternation.
Yeah, that's a good direction. Councillor Korsanji.
Sorry, do we need a motion for that, or can it just be followed up through clerk's office?
Yeah, we can just share it with MPP Oosterhoff.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Korsanji.
Thank you, through Chair. I really appreciate this report, and I really like how you've broken down key things and how it could affect us or how it might affect us. I think it's very educational. I think that we need to give as much feedback as possible to show that we have raised these concerns and we've done what we've needed to do. I am going to recommend, when and if this goes through, that then there is a public education component on this has happened at the provincial level, because we know if minor variances go from the Committee of Adjustment and then a year down the road, people are up in arms, at least this has been done at this level, this is why, this is what we tried to do about it. And I really think that public education key on all these things that will directly affect us or may not affect us. Like, we don't think that the tenancy part of this would affect us. It absolutely will. We have multiple apartment buildings that then these people, if they can get evicted one day after they don't pay their rent, that becomes a local issue. So I think that I appreciate it. You're doing everything right, and we keep doing everything we can do to give the necessary feedback. And then I really think we need to add in bills like this that public education component. And now I see we have a new newsletter or something coming out. So maybe it's in those things and just constantly educate the public on this is a change that happened. This is what we did about it.
Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Terry, thank you for the report. It's really well laid out. I got to say, it's easy to follow, and your team have done a lot of work. Obviously, they're doing a lot of work on something you don't even know what you're facing. To be honest with you, I don't even know how to ask you a question, because you can't answer a question to something that is not really written. So with directions, firm directions at this point in time. However, just a couple of things, and if I can find them. In the minor variance section, it says that regulation making authority that would reduce the necessity for minor variances by allowing variations, height, lot coverage to be permitted as of right. So how will it be handled if now it goes to the minor variance committee? Will that not, so those things won't go to the committee anymore? They'll just be dealt with at planning level, or how does that work? How would that, if it comes to pass, how would it work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it says as of right. So there are regulations, so we don't know exactly what percentage, if it's like 10% or 2%. I don't know exactly whether the height is higher, like what spectrum that is. But it would just be, the way it seems to be written, it would just, they could do it. And that's why we're suggesting if there was that staff approval, or at least there's something to say this has been approved. So you have like some process to find that it has happened. It's definitely concerning, because that's how often we create our zoning bylaws, to look at the exact context of our community. So in some cases you have very large lots, it's not going to impact that many things. But in some of our more urban areas, that half a meter can be a huge difference versus another, like a larger lot that you wouldn't really even notice it. So that's the other thing that we might see, that people create zoning bylaws then with the consideration of that 10% or whatever that consideration is in the future. So did it do anything? We're not quite sure. So that's why seeking that regulation will be helpful.
You're just confirming what I said. We don't know we don't have any of the answers yet to almost anything on here. Under changes to the Planning Act, community improvement plans, your summary was the recent changes was to remove planning responsibilities from the upper tier municipalities. And they were no longer able to offer community improvement plans. So this change would allow all upper tiers to continue existing and establish new CIPs to support local community municipalities. Are you saying that they're taking back what they gave us? Like, I think they were supposed to download some of the planning decisions to the local municipalities. Are you saying now they're pushing it back the other way again?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Maybe I just read it wrong.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. community improvement plans is usually a funding tool. So there's incentives for economic development purposes to build housing or industrial development or something. And so you designate an area of what they call community improvement, and the region would provide funding, and then the local municipality would also have a similar program so that they would work together. So you could draw funds from the regional program, you could draw funds from the local program. With the change in responsibilities, taking that away from the region, now it's kind of left in limbo. So that was one of the things that the province, not sure they foresaw, that you had these community improvement plan projects, but they couldn't provide the funding to the local municipalities because they didn't have an official plan anymore. So they're providing access to them to continue their existing community improvement plan efforts and also create new ones. I think the challenge that we're raising is that a community improvement plan is tied to the local official plan. So if they don't have an official plan, what are they tying it to? So how are they creating a community improvement plan that might not reflect the needs of all the local official plans that are created? So it's that one step removal. And just with some of the recent consultation that the region has been doing on their housing incentives, they found there's things under the Municipal Act that they can provide funding. So there are other opportunities available. So having the community improvement plan funding, it just doesn't quite make sense. It's really to how they've explained it thus far.
I guess in a nutshell, all of this needs to be really spelled out in black and white, because this is all kind of, we're surmising a lot of these things. So it's going to another reading, you said? So before that happens, they're looking for our feedback, and I guess this is kind of where this is. Nothing is written in stone at this point in time. I mean, that's a fair statement. Anyways, you don't have to answer that question. Anyways, yeah, okay, well, anyway, thank you for the report. I don't even, as I said, there's no point in asking questions that you can't really answer anyways, because we have to wait till the final copy. Thank you, Terry, it was a great job.
Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. Thank you for the report. I support all your feedback. Would you say that it's fair, as a planning staff member, to say that these changes that are constantly coming, new policies coming and going, are causing a strain and a stress on your planning department?
Through the mayor, of course. We're still trying to implement changes from Bill 23, which was in 2022. We're developing an official plan reflecting the changes to the provincial policy statement from 2024. And I think some of the changes that they're proposing in here are trying to say, well, we need to build more housing, but we haven't had the time to implement some of the policies that they wanted in another series of successive bills. So it's a lot of policy changes, but the process to make these changes, it takes some time, and there's community consultation. You want to do it right, and you want to fit the local community's needs. So there is a time gap to make some of these changes. So it is a bit of a challenge. We're always trying, of course, but it is a strain to try and understand the most recent changes that they have made and the impact that those have on us.
Okay, thank you. That's kind of what I suspected. The second question being that with these constant changes, I know back in October 2023, Councillor DeFlavio had brought forward a motion requesting, for us to get our costs for the Greenbelt changes back. It was $82,000. It's 2 years later. I'm wondering if we've ever received that funding based on the changes from that. Do we have any staff that can comment on that?
Tony, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, through the mayor. No, to date, we have not received any funding regarding that.
Okay, thank you. That's what I also thought. So I did provide a motion to our clerk addressing those two things. The one is asking for a letter, basically from council, just communicating that these constant changes are a stress. And the second being to get some clarification as far as the province and whether or not they will, our correspondence, first of all, to make sure that we've communicated this, because the province has committed to reimbursing us the $82,000 that we haven't gotten 2 years later. So, sorry, with that point being to follow up again and see when we're going to receive that money. So happy to read it. I have it here if you'd like, but I know that we need 2/3 to get it on the floor today.
Yeah, I think what we'll need to do, we'll need to go through the questions and vote on the report first, and then you can bring that forward.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Howe.
Thank you through you, Mayor. Again, Terry, you nailed it. But again, it's all devils in the details. Page 3, they refer to the minister can come and basically take over municipal assets. What the heck's that mean? You know, like what are they trying to say when you get into the municipal act and they talk about sewage works? It's almost like they're forgetting about Walkerton. You know, forget those lessons out of Walkerton. And doesn't mean anything to them. Minor variance is a joke. They've just making the individual, more important than the community. But the whole thing, your responses, you nailed it. Go get them. You know, you're a whole bunch wiser than they are, and this damn thing, it indicates that. So go get them.
Not yet. All right, seeing no further questions, Councillor Sharwa, do you?
Sorry, let's vote on this first.
All right, yeah, sorry.
And then
Yeah. Getting confused here. All right, moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Sharwa, resolved that report PA 25-39, overview and comments on Bill 60, Fighting Delays, Building Faster Act, dated November 17, 2025, be received, and that the report be submitted to the province as the town's comments on the proposed legislation and consultation. All in favor? And that's carried.
And then this is what should.
All right, so we need a mover and seconder to temporarily suspend the rules of procedure to get a 2/3 vote needed to discuss the motion. So moved by Councillor Sharwa. And seconder, Councillor Korstanji. All right, so probably do e-scribe to vote on this.
You just read the whole thing.
All right, sorry. Moved by Councillor Sharwa, second by Councillor Korstanji. Resolved that the rules of procedure be temporarily suspended by an affirmative vote of 2/3 to discuss Councillor Sharwa's motion on Greenbelt reimbursement.
You can't see it, like it. She can.
I vote in favor. I can't get the voting up on my screen, but I vote in favor.
Councillor Sharwa, do you want to provide an overview?
Yeah. Just don't. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I did. So it's two-part. The first part is just a letter just conveying council's ongoing concern regarding the volume and pace of provincial policy changes. And the second one is just basically an update on correspondence to make sure that we've communicated to the province for follow-up on where we are in this process and when we can expect that reimbursement. And sorry, that wasn't related to the $82,000 from the Greenbelt changes.
Yeah, so you can use your e-scribe to see if we can get 2/3 vote for this.
Again, I vote in favor.
All right, that's carried. Now, Councillor Sharwa, you can read your notice of motion.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Jordan. It is impacts of provincial policy changes and update on Greenbelt cost reimbursement. Whereas the town of Grimsby continues to face significant financial and operational strain due to the province's ongoing and frequent changes to planning legislation and municipal responsibilities, and whereas these continual changes most recently outlined in Bill 60, the Fighting Delays Building Faster Act, and summarized in Report PA 2539, requires substantial staff time, legal review, and administrative work, creating additional unfunded pressures on the municipality. And whereas Council previously adopted a notice of motion dated October 16th, 2023, costing of Greenbelt changes, which identified that the town incurred approximately $82,000 in legal, consulting, and staff time costs directly resulting from provincial direction, deadlines, and actions related to Greenbelt matters. And whereas the province publicly committed in 2023 to reimbursing the town of Grimsby $82,000 for these Greenbelt-related costs, and local taxpayers should not bear the burden of expenses created by provincial processes. Therefore, be it resolved that staff be directed to provide a report to council outlining, 1, whether the province has issued the payment it publicly committed to in 2023 for the $82,000 in Greenbelt-related costs. 2, all correspondence sent and received regarding the town's request for the committed reimbursement. And 3, any information provided by the province regarding when payment can be expected. And further be it resolved that a letter conveying council's ongoing concern regarding the volume and pace of provincial policy changes and their impacts on municipal operations be sent to Premier Doug Ford, Niagara West MPP St. Moosterhoff, and Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Rob Black. Thank you.
Tio? Or do you want?
Yeah, we can take questions first.
You want to take questions first? All right. Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. My first observation is that technically this particular notice of motion has nothing to do with Bill 60. I don't see where it relates to anything in the Bill 60 copy that I have seen tonight. Also, the staff has already gone back to the province twice. We put the staff in a position to go back to the province at least twice already to get these $82,000. So I think it's inappropriate that we go back again. I think we're just going to basically piss people off, to be very honest with you. So I don't think we should be doing this. Staff has done a great job, and I mean, I'm sure that they'll continue to monitor this. I do not believe we should be going down this road again for the third time. So I'm sorry. First of all, it has nothing to do with this particular Bill 60, so it's not relative. And second of all, I think that we've already done this twice, and I don't know why we're doing it again. So I think it's just a waste of time and money, and we're just putting staff to work to do something that we really don't need them to do again. So that's my thoughts on this. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the people feel, but that's how I feel, and I think we should stop doing this, because all we're doing is like not making it great for ourselves. Thank you.
Councillor Bradsey.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Jordan, through you. I'm going to quite echo what Councillor Frake has to say. I don't think we need to routinely be biting the hand that feeds us. I think we should be approaching offline methods and actually sitting down with the province and sitting down with local industries to maybe try to figure out what it is they're trying to change. And nothing good comes from making political noise. Let's sit down and figure it out.
Councillor DeFlavia.
Thank you, Mayor. In a little bit more neutral approach, I think we've already tackled a lot of this in what we said to Terry before in our motion from what we believe is council. So I think if we want to take out the 82,000 request and say, hey, where's our money, in a nice way, then I support that. Everything else, I think we're kind of doing through staff already. So I don't think we need to put in a notice of motion, because there's a bit of redundancy, I think, in the notice of motion. And also, I think that we have the approach that we're taking where we've been asked for comments, we're giving comments through staff. And so while I agree with the gist of it, I don't think it's necessary to do it this way. And I think that if the goal is to get the money that we were promised, we should just say, hey, this might have slipped through the cracks We get that. It's not important to you, but it's important to us. So where's that money that you told us you were going to give us? Because Minister Calandra, who was at that time the Minister of Municipal Affairs, I believe, went on TV and said he was going to send us the money. It's not like we're asking for something that wasn't promised. But all the other things, I think really the appropriate way to attack that is through staff, not through a council motion. The adversarial approach is not, I love it, but it has not gained us anything in the past. So, as much as I understand the gist of it, I think that if our goal is to get the money, let's say, hey, just a reminder that you said you'd give us that money. Where is it? Something as simple as that would be, I think, a better approach than putting all of this together in one, in my opinion.
Councillor Sharwa.
Thank you, through Mayor Jordan. I'm open to amending this. This is the first time I've heard that the council, that staff has asked 2 times. You guys might have had more information than I did. However, I know that it's been asked, and I would like to have it in writing that it's been 2 years. So how long do we continue to wait for something that was publicly promised and we haven't received? And also in response to this not being related to Bill 60, it is, because this is a planning stress. So this is kind of where it came from. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we've been asked this question previously in other meetings too, right? And we've stated that we've been in continuous communication with MMAH and all the ministries regarding the payment of the Greenbelt-related costs. There's nothing really that staff can provide an update in a report that's anything new in nature than everything that we've answered so far. I mean, I could answer some of these questions right now. Like we've asked for the $82,000 to the province. Back in July, we've received communication that this is an ongoing policy discussion, which impacts multiple municipalities, and MMAH will be in touch directly when their office is ready to make a decision and it's finalized, and we have not received anything since then. So we are still waiting as staff, but we've been having that communication on an operational level, asking for updates, and like I said, there's no date that they've committed in terms of dates, so there's nothing that we can really update through a staff report.
I'd say the irony of this is that we're discussing how quickly it is for the province to change their policies with planning, and then here we are 25 months later, we still haven't received an $82,000 check when there are millions of dollars that are funded that are going through the province to various organizations. So that's fine. I'm not offended however you vote. However, I would like to continue to, and like I said, I'm open to friendly amendments. If we want to change the tone of it, I am open to that, but I would like to proceed.
All right, so I think we can just vote on that, but one thing that I just want to add about Bill 60 called Fighting Delays, Building Faster. If we have, like our municipality, 3,500 approved units for building and the developers aren't going to build them, it's not going to be faster no matter what legislation comes along from the province. So this is just, in my opinion, pretty much a red herring, and this part of it anyway. Because no matter what they do, they're not going to build anything faster if the developers aren't in a position to make enough money to build it. So we can vote now. Probably use the e-scribe.
I had a comment. My hand was up. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, we've called the question, Councillor Vardy, so you can
I didn't
just
get
vote.
a chance to speak, so.
What? Does she speak? No. No. You can, okay, go ahead if you have something to add.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to split out the part about the money and vote on that separately, if that's agreeable.
It looks like council wants to just vote on it, so let's just vote on it.
Okay. favor.
All right, that's been defeated. Up next, we have Councillor DeVoley's notice of motion. Can you please read it?
My notice of motion, as seconded by Councillor Vardy, is entitled Monitoring Compliance of the Unanimous Shareholders Agreement. Whereas the town of Grimsby is a shareholder of Niagara Power Incorporated, and we refer to that entity as NPI, and both are parties to a unanimous shareholders agreement together with Grimsby Power Incorporated and Fortis Ontario Inc. Whereas these are municipally owned assets and council supports accountability and compliance with legal agreements. Whereas there are internal financial reporting requirements contained therein by Grimsby Power Incorporated and Niagara Power Incorporated to the shareholders. Therefore, be it resolved that Grimsby Power and Niagara Power are requested to comply with paragraph 2.9 of the unanimous shareholder agreement at the February 9th, 2026 closed council meeting in accordance with the confidentiality provisions of paragraph 5.1 of the unanimous shareholder agreement. And secondly, that staff report back on January 19th, 2026, detailing who will be responsible going forward for ensuring quarterly monitoring and reporting to council on compliance by GPI and NPI of this agreement and in what manner this will take place. And I acknowledge that this notice of motion will be given consideration at the December 1st, 2025 council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor DeVoley. Can I have a mover and seconder for the bylaw? Moved by Councillor Bradsey, second by Councillor Korstanji. Moved by Councillor Bradsey, second by Councillor Korstanji. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 25-66 and that same be read a first time, considered and passed. All in favor? And that's carried. Next meeting, there will be a special council meeting to discuss the 2026 budget on November 24th, 2025 at 5:30, and the next regular scheduled council meeting is for December 1st, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Before we go into close, Councillor Bradsey, are you going to declare a conflict of interest on the closed session?
Said I wasn't able to actually read it until we sat here today. I can't see closed session material unless I'm on the town's internet, but seeing it's about me, yeah, I'll declare it non-pecuniary interest.
All right, okay.
From what I can tell.
That'll be so noted. All right, can I have a mover and seconder to move into closed? Moved by Councillor Charwa, second by Councillor DeVoley. Moved by Councillor Charwa, seconded by Councillor DeVoley. Resolved that council meet in closed session to discuss 38 Morrison Crescent OLT update pursuant to subsection 2392F of the Municipal Act and councillor absent pursuant to subsection 2392B of the Municipal Act. All in favor to move into closed? And that's carried.
So Katie.
All right. Welcome back. Can I have a mover and seconder for the closed session direction?
About 38.
That's for 38 Morrison. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor DeVoley. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor DeVoley. Resolved that the direction provided in closed session regarding the 38 Morrison Crescent OLT update be received. All in favor? Be approved, sorry. We're approving it. All in favor? All right, that's carried. Yeah. Need a mover and seconder for the councillor absence recommendation. Moved by Councillor Howe. Seconder, Councillor Corstangi. So I'll read the resolution and then we can discuss it before we vote. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Corstangi. Whereas Councillor Bradsey has been absent frequently between January 1st and November 17th, 2025, including being absent from 16 council and committee meetings and multiple community events, been late to 4 meetings and attended virtually 6 times without providing proper notice, and whereas as a result of continued pattern of non-compliance and lack of engagement, council has lost confidence in the members' ability to fulfill the responsibilities associated with certain leadership roles. Now therefore be resolved that council direct the clerk to file an integrity commissioner complaint with the 3 letters provided on the closed session agenda. Discussion?
I vote in favor.
Recorded vote. You can't say anything after. All right, that's carried.
Sorry, just through you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Jordan and Councillor Frake were no. Councillor Bradsey had a conflict of interest, and the rest of council were yes. Yeah, there you go.
Can I have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Korstanji. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 25-67 and that same be read a first time, considered and passed. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, everyone. Meeting is adjourned. Good night.